factor is kind of interesting. I am short, so I also, like Alana from this morning, do not like podiums and stuff, so I might dodge like this just so I can see you guys. So we heard, this morning a lot. I think there's a theme going on about ecosystems and how different organizations and communities can work together and partner together to have an impact on our communities, whether that impact is economic or whether that impact is social. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about how makerspaces are having an impact around the country. And honestly, they're having an impact around the world. I'm choosing some American examples here. So there are 10 ways that makerspaces are having a big impact on communities across the U.S. So as was just said, my name is Dorothy Jones-Davis. I'm the Executive Director of Nation Makers. And again, we're a national nonprofit whose mission is to support the full range of organizations that impact makers. So this is everything from makerspaces to manufacturers, to people who create supplies for makers, to people who provide training for maker educators. Anyone who touches the maker community, I am here to support you. So if that's you and you want to talk to me about some of the things we do, I'd be delighted to tell you a little bit more about Nation Makers. This talk will not focus so much on our organization, but I never tire of talking about our organization, so feel free to grab me afterwards. We do this by building community, really bringing together unique partnerships between the diversity of maker organizations, encouraging connections amongst those organizations. We broadly share resources pointing to those individuals that created those resources. We facilitate funding opportunities where we can, engage in policy development. We're based in the DC area, so we spend a lot of time talking to and doing advocacy with our leaders. We're not a lobbyist group, but we do try to let the congressional leaders and federal agency leaders know what we're doing and really just continue to advocate. So as a steward of this resource, which is called the Atlas of Innovation, which is a crowdsourced atlas of community innovation spaces around the world, we know that we have thousands of makerspaces in the U.S. They're found in nearly every corner of our country in different communities. They're rural, they're urban. Beyond just spaces to create, these spaces are having big impacts on their communities and, in fact, on our nation. And so today I'm going to take you through 10 ways that makerspaces are having some of those impacts. So let's jump right in. So when we think about workforce development, I think the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, what does the future of work look like? So when we think about what does that future of work look like, what do we picture? So generally speaking, I'm thinking we don't picture this. We can all agree that it does not look like a very industrial place where we're just churning out widget after widget after widget with no creativity, with no innovation. And in fact, I think if you think about the characteristics of these types of workspaces, we're looking at things like, building a workforce that's nimble, that's multidisciplinary, that's diverse, that's responsive to changing needs, that's dynamic, that's interdisciplinary, so able to really converse and think about how we can work across our silos, that's Renaissance, that incorporates the arts as much as it incorporates STEM and really turns that STEM into STEAM. Of course, we want a workforce that's equitable, that has fair opportunities for everyone in a particular community, that's really out of the box, right? One of the things America is really known for when we talk about American innovation is that we really think outside the box. We pride ourselves on being unique, and we pride ourselves on being personalized, and we really want to personalize what workforce development looks like. And so one of the things that we did as Nation Makers is really one of the dialogues we've been having with a federal agency is with the Small Business Administration. And so this year we're really proud that the Small Business Administration, after probably over a year of conversation, decided to do their first solicitation for funding specifically for makerspaces. And so we made the case to them that makerspaces, in fact, are a place that workforce development can occur. And so this lovely, of course, in the federal government, you have to have an acronym. It's the Makerspace Training, Collaboration, and Hiring Competition, also known as MATCH. And so SBA had their first round of match this year and funded $1 million out to help Makerspaces train the workforce of tomorrow. And they were seeding different Makerspaces of different sizes, from everything from seed opportunities to start out a new pilot, to proof of principle, sort of sustaining existing initiatives to something that would be larger and develop out. And so I wanted to talk to you about one of the recipients that really gives a key to some of the workforce development that's more mature, and that is Vocademy, which is in Riverside, California. And so Vocademy was one of the Makerspaces selected to receive $100,000 from an SBA match program. They're located in Riverside County, California, inside of an opportunity zone. And their mission, and they were designed with this explicit mission to provide a solution to the skills gap, and really think about how they could be an effective college alternative. So how do you gather skills and training just in time for a particular need or skill that you needed to acquire quickly, and help people find meaningful careers in the world of making things. So Vocademy combines attributes of Makerspaces and also traditional trade schools, and gives the people that are there opportunities to go to what they call Makerspace evenings, 7 days a week after their traditional job, where they can practice what they're learning and gain experience. So it's very similar to every other Makerspace, but their specific, explicit goal is to develop workforce development. So as a match recipient, Vocademy wants to use its prize money to scale those current successful programs that serve the needs of manufacturing companies that have been looking for employees from coming out of Vocademy, and really try to also reach out and broaden participation to some of the underserved communities within Riverside who really are looking for not just training, but maybe career advancement through just-in-time training. So that's that nimbleness that I was talking about as we're looking at the workforce of tomorrow. And in fact, we know that learning is something that, obviously happens all throughout your life, right? So it's not something that just stops once you graduate from high school and you get your diploma, or once you graduate from college. And so we know that making has a large impact on learners of all ages. And so project-based learning, we know, has better outcomes. There's lots of data to show this at this point, and most of the engaging teachers that I know, even before project-based learning was a thing, were realizing that there was a connection between not just telling students what to do, but helping them understand how to create on their own and make those connections, for example, between math and science, or math and history even. And so a good example of this is Kid Museum in Bethesda, Maryland, near where I'm from. I will make a very blatant, I will say that our family is a member of, this is my daughter's Makerspace, so I will say it's a little bit of a nepotism there, I suppose. But they are a kid-focused Makerspace, and one of the few specifically focused on children and learning from K to 12. You'll hear of another one soon from Steve, who has a focus on youth and training in Bad Newport. Their invention programs integrate STEM with social, emotional learning, and social responsibility, and they bridge in-school and out-of-school experiences. So they actually have a partnership with Montgomery County Public Schools, and do some work within the school system and then out of school time. They have an invention studio program and an invent future challenge where students are guided through the invention process, designing, developing, prototyping, and troubleshooting their ideas, going through that design cycle. And their Invent the Future Challenge, which is a district-wide partnership, as I said before, with Montgomery County School System, which is actually one of the largest school systems in the United States, really broadens access to that hands-on learning experience to youth within the DC school system area that would not normally have access to that type of learning. And so the Invent the Future Challenge is also really interesting and unique as a model of having impact, because it also not just challenges students to invent something or create something, but to really critically look at a challenge that's facing the environment, and really think about not how can we be a better steward of the environment and use our maker skills to create solutions to that environment. And so that's another way that we see that makerspaces are having that impact. And I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the social challenges that makerspaces are taking on. And just so you know, there were 500 students in the first year that participated in that challenge, which is incredible. And I got to see some of the ideas, and they were just fantastic. And so makerspaces have long been asking, how can we meet the needs of our community, and how can we meet the needs of honestly the earth? And so in this example here is the Foundry in New York, in Buffalo, New York. They're investing directly into their local community. They have a number of programs. One of their programs supports women and African Americans in that community through business incubation. They provide space, they provide mentorship, a business network, and what they call a Foundry family that supports the entrepreneurs by sending them into business and buying from them directly. And they accept all sorts of entrepreneurs into their program, but they're really intentional about making sure that the percentage of women and African American individuals are reflective of their actual city. So they have about 40% African American, 52% women in their program. And so by that intentionality, they're really having an impact on the direct community and making sure that those slots are filled by people within the community that then will go on to continue to have an impact on the community. And I just want to give one quick story here, a success story from Zandra Cunningham. She moved into about 150 square feet in the space at the Foundry at 13. So she was a young entrepreneur, and she had a lip balm business. And her parents kind of kicked her out of the house, not really literally, but they were like, your stuff is everywhere and you need to go find another space to do your business because it's all over our living room. And so she slowly expanded in their space. And in this picture, she's 18. In this picture, I think she's about 20 now. She was in 5,000 square feet, she was in their space, and then she moved out to 5,000 square feet within the community across town, and now her products in stores around the country. So it's a really great example of investing in the local community, investing in youth, and really providing that type of support, not just space and support, but really asking, how can we help beyond? So she expanded her business, for example, to soap molds, and so then she had to, figure out, well, how do I make these soap molds? And that's not something she would do. And I was talking to Deborah out here, and she was saying the spaces that we create, that intercollaboration, right? So Zandra, in this example, was able to ask somebody else who makes molds, can you make me some special soap molds for my business? And so she was able to sort of subcontract to the other maker, and they helped her build her business. And so that was just a really great way, to create that collaborative, collaboration. So now she gives back, and this is a group from the Boys and Girls Club in Buffalo, and is modeling how young people can become entrepreneurs like she did. So another example of community empowerment, because you're down here, you're missing the talk upstairs, and Dr. Ron Williams, is just finished a study with OpenWorks, which is a makerspace in Baltimore. And I apologize, there's a little bit of a leaning towards the area that I live in. It wasn't exactly intentional, it's just, it happened to be examples that I know the best. There are lots more examples. When I was pulling this together, I realized afterwards, I'm kind of favoring people on the East Coast. There are wonderful examples, and I have some others around the country. But at OpenWorks, there has been a partnership with the community from the very beginning. So Will Holman, who is the executive director there at OpenWorks, hired on April Lewis, who's the community manager. And when they started, Will openly admitted, I don't belong here. And what he meant by that is sort of, I'm not from this community in Baltimore. To be honest, I'm going to say it very blankly, he's a white male in a community that's mostly African American. And he was like, I need to acknowledge the elephant in the room that I am coming into a space and I need to cede myself to the community. So he started going to just community meetings and sitting in the back. And they were like, who's that guy in the back? And there was all these kind of questions, like, is he going to buy our spaces? Is he trying to buy our houses? What's the guy doing? And so, he started having conversations, opening up this space, and we want to know how we can help you. And so some of the people were skeptical, and they were just like, so we need chairs. you know, there are not enough chairs here. We could use some tables. Like, could you make that? And so he was like, okay, yeah, we can do that. And so he made some tables and the chairs, brought them back. And he's like, well, how about I show you how to make these tables and chairs? And so some of the people came and started making tables and chairs, and they were like, oh, okay. You know, and then more and more he started saying, okay, what do you want to make? What do you want to build? How can I help you do those things? And really sort of stepped aside to see what the need of the community is, building that trust. And actually, Dr. Williams, one of the things he studies in his own research is trust frameworks. And that's a really big part of building that community. You probably know this as you gain members. It becomes a community. It's really about, you know, creating a community and having that trust within the community. Well, the short of this is that now OpenWorks, in their most recent report, showed that they produced $9.9 million in direct economic impact to the city of Baltimore. So it's transformative. Once you involve the community in, you start to see that economic impact. You start to see that personal impact. When I go into the space, you know, I see people from the community, I see people from all over, all types of different people working there, building there, creating businesses there. It's pretty amazing. And one of the examples is this Moms as Entrepreneurs program, which was recognized by a number of different entities, including Etsy, as a really amazing model. And it was started by a mom who was at OpenWorks doing, you know, work at OpenWorks, and she was like, you know, I want to help other mothers, and she was an African-American woman, I want to help other mothers make businesses. I think, you know, this is something we can do while our kids are in daycare or whatever, and I have some ideas, and I know a lot of moms that are trying to do this, so how can I help empower this? And so she worked, you know, at OpenWorks to do this, and so now they have a fair. This is a young lady at the fair selling, I believe she had beaded necklaces, the chew necklaces for moms that are have babies that are teething. And so just really amazing ideas that come out of these spaces. And I want to put in a plug for Ron Williams' report because it is a really amazing report. It's greaterspacesandplaces.com. If you go there, you'll see the OpenWorks impact report that was done with Coppin State University, which is where Dr. Williams works. Really great. So we're going to shift from local community impacts to more national impacts now. So did you know, how many people knew that all the branches of our military have Makerspaces? Okay, only a couple people knew that. I was really surprised by that too. And there's really active, participation within our military because they see the need for being able to create things on the fly. And they know that, you know, in wartime, sometimes things happen. And, you know, it's easier to 3D print a replacement part than it might be to actually order something through procurement and have it come in and actually make a critical difference. Shown in this picture is an 81 millimeter mortar wrench that launched what's known as the Marine Maker Initiative. So Building Momentum, which is a makerspace in Alexandria, Virginia, went out to 29 Palms, which is a training ground in California on short notice, to do a 3D CAD workshop for about 30 Marines that were getting ready to deploy overseas. And out of that group, only one ended up going to Kuwait, and a few months later they put together a few 3D printers and a laptop for the commandant of the Marine Corps to deliver as a Christmas present to the deployed troops. And the funny thing is, it was supposed to be just like a little gift, like, oh, here, have fun. It was going to be something they were going to play with. Well, when they ended up getting a delivery of 81 millimeter mortar tubes, they didn't get the right tools to use them. And so the Corporal Hunt was like, well, we have this 3D printer, why don't we try it? And so they used their CAD training that they had gotten to create and prototype this, you know, wrench. And so, you know, while they were waiting for the steel version to come, and then you can see they prototyped in a couple different materials, there's also a wood version there. And so seeing how the Marines solved the problem that quickly, the commandant was like, whoa, this is actually much more powerful than I thought it was going to be. They made a really convincing argument that all of the deploying units should have 3D printers. And so now it's becoming a full-on program of record, fully funded for fiscal year 2021 it's called Tactical Fabrication, or TACFab. So that's a huge leap. To move from a single Marine that could use CAD to a fully funded program to deploy and support equipment across the Marine Corps in just a few years. And so, you know, given the utility of 3D printing for creating those just-in-time tools, the Marines, as well as the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, are all excited and thinking about how additive manufacturing can be used on site in battle zones to keep our country and our troops safe. Another example is maker to manufacturer. Now, this might be one that's pretty obvious to people. People may know or be aware of, the pathways. Walking around here, you can see the quick connection between maker to manufacturer. So M-Hub is in Chicago, and its mission is to galvanize the Midwest manufacturing ecosystem by providing access to labs and equipment, by attracting talent and fostering collaboration between industry partners and entrepreneurs to spark new ideas. And so they take ideas, they turn them into working prototypes, and prototypes into sustainable business by doing small batch manufacturing right there inside their site. And so this is another way that makerspaces are having an impact by becoming prototyping sites, by becoming sites that are doing small batch manufacturing. And so in M-Hub, they get this really amazing team from their pool of members that help iterate on prototypes and test solutions. And then manufacturers get access to M-Hub's talent, $5 million of equipment and industry leaders that are helping them out with these things. And so they're able to do all of this stuff really quickly at scale because they have this amazing network of members. And then they can also then contract out themselves once they create things. And so they're really impressive with their numbers. I went and looked up. They're up to $19 million in revenue, more than 350 jobs created, 235 products developed, and they're keeping 76% of that manufacturing happening here in the United States, which is really important. So we're trying to do that as an economy. And honestly, this prototyping, this iteration, community engagement, facilitated group incubation is really key to what America's innovation is. So when we think about that innovation ecosystem, how do we build it? How do we make sure that we're creating opportunities for all Americans? We're really proud to be a part of the U.S. Department of Energy's Solar Prize Challenge. Right now, we're connecting makerspaces nationwide to harness the innovation of makers within the spaces, supporting and bolstering mentorship and giving people democratic access to democratized access to tools and innovation equipment to create the innovations that they want. And so we're working with the Department of Energy to look at makerspaces as a venue for that type of innovation, specifically in solar. And so we're really excited. I just heard a story. We had an event. I'm losing track of what day of the week it is. It's Friday. On Wednesday, we had an event in Alexandria at the USPTO, and we got to meet an innovator who has an art degree. And he made these beautiful, so one of the barriers to solar is that it's ugly, or some people perceive it as ugly, so they won't put it on their house even though they want solar. And so his innovation is to create beautiful looking tiles. And so he made this beautiful prototype of sort of this really beautiful mosaic, and you could put it on your house and it would be beautiful, or you could put it up in your garden and have this beautiful. And so these are just really great, connections that can be made between people that think a little bit outside the box, right? And that are bringing innovation to an area, to solve a need within a community. We see the same thing in science and agriculture. One of the other examples we have of makerspaces solving difficult challenges is the Growing Beyond Earth Challenge. This is the partnership with Fairchild Botanical Garden in Coral Gables, Florida. Besides the International Space Station, so besides the Marines having a 3D printer, the International Space Station also has a 3D printer, and this particular garden, this botanical garden in Coral Gables, has the first makerspace inside of a botanical garden. And it's really exciting. You might wonder why. The short of it is that they were working on a botanical challenge with NASA to grow plants beyond Earth. And they were looking at it specifically like you would expect from a botanical garden. They're just looking at the biology of it. Like what seeds grow best on Mars, right, or wherever, or outside of Earth. And so they were just focusing on the biology and all these people working on biology, and they realized, well, they'd send up these seeds, and the people at the International Space Station were like, yeah, so it still doesn't work because, the water doesn't flow the same way up here, and, there's some structural challenges, there's some engineering challenges. So they were like, we need an engineering space. What we need is a makerspace. So they went back to NASA and asked for more money to create this makerspace, but not only to do that, but to create a maker challenge. So right now, in collaboration with us, in collaboration with Adafruit, Inventables, You can go online, it's open until February, it's the Growing Beyond Earth Maker Challenge, and you can propose an idea to grow plants beyond Earth for technology, and they're engaging students. They work a lot with students, so this is great if there are any educators in the room. It's a great project to get your students on. They're looking for people all over to do this type of work, Makerspaces to get on board. They'll send you a kit because there have to be certain specifications because it's NASA, and you can't just throw anything up in space, it turns out. So you have to have some very specific equipment, but how you pull it together is up to you, so it's exciting. Two more quick things, and hopefully I'm not running over. Am I doing good? Okay. So two more ways that Makerspaces are having a big impact. Humanitarian relief. So sort of continuing on a theme of Makerspaces helping their communities in sort of difficult times. Following Hurricane Harvey, if you guys recall, which is now a little bit ago, it severely affected Texas and Europe, actually, probably Louisiana as well. Makerspace in Texas, TXRX Labs, they started what they call their Harvey Crafters for Good program. And that opened its doors for volunteers interested in making tables for flood victims. And so TXRX was able to make 15 tables and donate them to low-income families within the community within like a week. Like they got a bunch of volunteers to come in. And that's only like one example of those types of programs. We've been working as Nation Makers with Burners Without Borders and Field Ready Humanitarian Makers on a disaster relief, and actually Todd and Back has been part of that disaster relief humanitarian aid sort of group to really discuss how Makerspaces could be disaster resiliency centers. So if you think about it, after a disaster, you're looking for ways to rebuild. And who better to have the tools and equipment? Who has the better tools and equipment to rebuild than Makerspaces? And so assuming the Makerspace within that community is intact, or assuming that we can get to another Makerspace that's not so far away that can help with those tools and equipment, we have some really great opportunities for Makerspaces to play a key role in building communities in times of need. And this, also extends internationally. We've seen work with refugee communities after earthquakes in Haiti, in Syria. We've heard all kinds of really amazing stories, and I don't have time to tell you all of them. So my last example is, you might not think about this, but makers are having an impact on health. And this is only one program. There are actually several programs that are looking at health in different ways. We have a number of organizations that are working to create assistive devices for individuals with different ability levels. There's a great organization called Makers Making Change that's started to expand. They started in Canada. They're expanding to the United States, and really, it's a very easy way. You might be interested in. We actually try to have student chapters. To create these little switches for individuals that they have all different kinds of switches that they create for folks with this that are in need of assistive technology. One of them is called a lip sync, so for individuals that that cannot move their wheelchair on their own, that have to use a breath to move their wheelchair because they're severely quadriplegic. They have that ability through this device, and they use communities to come together to build those. We also have Magic Wheelchair, which we partnered with at this year's NomCon, which is really fun, which is an amazing organization that helps critically ill children have costumes, which may sound like a trivial thing, but the joy on those kids' faces is amazing. To have a very special custom costume made just for them that requires the effort. But this one, and I just want to say it really quickly, across the country in Palo Alto, California, is a program called Maker Therapy, and the gentleman who runs it, Gokul Krishnan, he wanted to see how making could, or he had an idea that making could help improve health outcomes. And that, we're all happy when we make, so how would it have an impact on critically ill children? And so he was working in Stanford Hospital. Before that, he was working at Vanderbilt Hospital, and he was working in the cancer wards and with youth. And he was just volunteering initially, and he gave them just a few kits. He just brought some kits first it was just kits in a bag. And then he watched, as they were able to kind of take ownership of a situation that they felt very powerless in, right? right? So you think about it, you're in the hospital, your parents are telling you what to kind of do for the most part, you're not really happy, all your friends are not suffering with cancer, right? And you just feel like the world's kind of not such a great place. And so this gives kids agency, as we know Making does, and empowers them to really have some small control. So whether it was like making a switch so that the nurses needed to push something so that they wouldn't wake up the kid in the middle of the night a zillion times, or any number of other little interventions, it really changed kids' outcomes. And so now he actually is working, he's expanding the program across the country, but he's also working with a hospice unit for kids that are in hospice, that are terminally ill. And he's really excited to sort of partner on some, what are the research outcomes with that population, and can he improve the quality of life in those really important last days. So, I mean, the Maker movement has, direct impacts that we probably could have thought of, but there are things like this, right, that we know making has this amazing, hold on us that can really be transformative. And so I leave you with this, which is just, what impact will you make? The Maker movement has so many different ways that we have impacts, and I didn't even get to probably half of the ones that I have. These are just 10 quick ones that kind of summarize. But really, what does that future look like? And I just want to say thank you, and thank you to organizers for inviting me. If you want to get in touch with me, this is all of my information. Well, this is my information on top, and then @NationOfMakers is our Twitter handle, and our website is nationmakers.us. So thank you.